Amber has a 3-point bustle. That means we have 3 spots down here in the train that we're gonna lift up. We're gonna have 3 ribbon loops that we pull out of the skirt and 3 sets of ribbon strings we pull out of the upper portion of the skirt. So we're gonna start with pulling some hidden strings out. So I'm gonna get a little bit closer here, and we're gonna start looking here at the bottom of this zipper where that button is and go down that seam about 5 inches. And right here on this applique, there are little ribbon knots, okay? I left little ends on there so you can find them. We're gonna go ahead and just pull these all the way out. There is a button that is attached to the back of this ribbon, so when this stops, that button's hitting the fabric, so this isn't going to rip her dress, and it's going to stay nice and secure. So we have 1 set here. We are going to have 1 over here to the right, again about another 5 inches, and it's just at a diagonal on this applique. And then we have 1 more. Oh, hold on, I think I've got my buttons crossed. Glad this happens now, because sometimes when these hang in, those buttons can kind of kiss under here, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna undo that. There we go. Because they hang in next to each other. So if you feel like one starts to pull weird, they're just locked underneath, and you need to go under and undo that. All right, so there's those ones. The next one is the same thing, just on the left, again at a diagonal about 5 inches over. All right, so we have 3 sets of ribbon strings here. Now we're gonna pull out some loops. We're gonna have 1 point that is down the center seam, and that one's gonna be through all of the layers in the train. And then we're gonna have 1 on the left and 1 on the right, but those 2 are actually only under the top 2 layers of tulle. So I'm actually gonna start with those, and I'm gonna do our center one last. So when we look through the top, sometimes you can see that there is a ribbon hanging out there. It's actually under this little applique that I put down so that we have some extra stability. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift up just those 2 layers of tulle here on the left, and this is what we're gonna find on the inside, that ribbon and that button. Go ahead and hold on to that and come to the outside, and I'm gonna feel, but you can kind of see that ribbon coming across just a little bit. So there's our little loop. Now this one is just below our left ribbons, so we're gonna go ahead and tie it up to that. Take 1 ribbon through the loop and bring that all the way up as high as that can go. We don't want this to droop down while we're tying, so make sure that comes up as high as it can go. There. And then we're just gonna tie this up into a bow. You can tie it into a knot, but a bow will be just sufficient enough. These ribbons are super grippy and this won't go anywhere. And I'll show you how to hide those ribbons in a second. We're gonna go ahead and do the same thing here on the right. Now I know where it is, so I'm gonna just find it from the top, but again, if you have a hard time, go underneath. It is on this applique, on that same spot of that flower. And there it is. We're gonna do the same thing here on the right. There we go. So you shouldn't have a hard time holding this fabric up, but if you do, you can have a second person hold that so it doesn't slip down. You can stick your knee under it. The sides are just through those 2 layers, so they're a little bit easier to manage, but don't feel like you shouldn't have help. Sometimes you do. All right, like I said, this last one is down through all of the layers in the train. So I'm at the bottom center seam here, and when I lift that up, the first thing I see is this little loop. This is not the bustle. We're looking for the same things that we had on the other side. So keep going till we get to that. There it is. And go ahead to the outside. And this one is just right here, kind of hanging out on that little applique. It is a little bit different of a color, so that kind of helps find it. There we go. And this one goes to our center seam. So this one I do like to stick my knee up under to help hold that, because otherwise you're fighting with the dress, which I like to avoid at all costs. So have someone hold it, use your knee for stability, whatever you need to do. That way we can get this up without fighting with the dress. Again, just tie that up into a bow. All right, so 2 more things. I'm gonna show you how to hide this bow. You can do this with all 3 points. I'm just gonna demonstrate with 1. I'm gonna twist these ribbons up nice and tight, and then I'm gonna use my thumb and push those ribbons through the that loop, and then just pull them backwards so that they hang behind instead of out in front. They just are a little bit more tame that way. The last thing is this bustle, no matter what, just like when the train is down, it does whatever it wants. So we really want to display it correctly if you're gonna have a photo, maybe a cake cutting or something. So again, just like when the train's down, fluff it from that back center. If there are any weird points that are kind of sticking out, go ahead and push those backwards behind. Make sure those ribbons had been tucked backwards through that. And that is her 3-point bustle.